In today's video, we're going to cover washing your KTM Husqvarna or GasGas dirt bike. Welcome to Trail Tune Up. My name is Jason, and today we are going to be washing this KTM 350 XWF. Same goes for KTM and Husqvarna dirt bikes. Pretty much any dirt bike you could apply this to. There are going to be some very small differences, but let's jump right in. And this is everything you're basically going to need. We've got some Mud Guru by Stockton Tools. I love this stuff. It gets the grime off. We'll cover how to use that in a bit. We got the cover for your air box. I think this is a very important one. This will be used for drying things off. Obviously, we've got a chamois to clean things up. I do want to mention that you should never use a pressure washer to wash your dirt bike unless it's specifically designed for dirt bikes. And reason being is you don't want to, pressure wash anything that could get into your electrical equipment or get into your bearings. And some of the high pressure washers can definitely damage parts on your bike. So you definitely want to be cautious. That's why I use a hose. You'll see I use really light spraying on my dirt bike, but as you can see, we're running pretty, not too dirty, but I went to Carnegie, got a little bit of riding done in the mud, so we're gonna get this bike all cleaned up. This is a really important part. You want to make sure you're clean so that when you do your oil changes, you don't get any dirt inside there. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing today. All right, so one of the first things I want to mention that might be different on my bike than yours is I have this larger fuel filter by Pinot Racing. And the reason I got this one is, well, the one that comes with the bike is just a very small filter. It's actually inside of there, and it is so tiny compared to the surface area you get with this one. So your bike may actually have one of these on there. I'll show you what it looks like and the difference. One thing that I want to point out, when you bought your bike, you probably got a wash cap set that looks like this, these two pieces. So if you do not have a large fuel filter like I do, and you've got this one, I'm going to show you what you need to do when you're washing your bike to make sure no water gets in your fuel line. Luckily, I don't have to worry about this. These are all cinched on super tight, so I don't need to worry about water getting in there. This is also another reason why you would never want to use a pressure washer, because you could potentially force water into your fuel line, and that's a big no-no. All right, so normally this is what your fuel filter would look like if your KTM Husqvarna or GasGas dirt bike has a stock fuel filter. Basically, you would want to unplug this piece. You'd want to cap this right here with this one, and it's not going to be easy to do this because, well, it's making things watertight. So just get that in there, push that button in, smash it in, you'll hear it click in place, and now basically your bike would look like this, and you'd be ready to wash it, and you wouldn't have to worry about getting water in your fuel line. But like I said, since I've got this one, it's something we don't really have to worry about, but I just wanted to mention it in case you have your stock filter on your bike. All right, next thing we're gonna do is make sure that we don't get any water in our air box. Might be time to clean this up a little bit, but I'll also mention I use these PC Racing filter skins. They're great because, I could just pull, this filter skin off, and my air filter is going to be completely clean. And so I usually you get, I think, a pack of 3 or 5 of them. All you have to do is take this off. You can wash it, apply oil to it, and then put it back over your air filter. And this thing's great because it makes it so I can clean less. As you can see in here, I've removed my reeds and installed this intake tube. You don't have to do this, but it's just something that I got with a kit from Pinot Racing and Best Dual Sport Bikes. Remap the ECU to help with the extra airflow, to give the right fuel ratio for that, and it makes the bike rip a little bit harder. All right, so earlier, this is what I was talking about. You don't have to have one of these. I just think it's really helpful to make sure you get a nice clean seal, and then you don't have to worry about, getting any water in there. So it just fits right in here where your fuel filter would normally go. It's hard to do this one-handed, so I'm gonna put this down real quick. So now we're all installed. We don't have to worry about getting any water in there. This is nice and sealed. I'm obviously still gonna put my side cover on here, but I don't have to worry about any water leaking through here and getting in the airbox at all. One of the things I love about this bike is the ease of getting to the airbox. No screws, no tabs, nothing, just boom, boom, we're back on. And of course, it's always a good idea to plug up your exhaust. It's not a huge deal if water gets in there, but you definitely don't want water in there. So I just use one of these to make sure that when I'm cleaning things up, I don't get any water in my exhaust. And if you've got one of these adjustable hose heads, great. If not, no worries. But we're just gonna use the cone setting. It's just gonna get a light little mist around the bike. I like to just get everything nice and wet first. Just kind of spraying everywhere, just to get some water on the bike. And then we're gonna apply our Mud Guru and let it sit for a little while. So I'm just gonna do this. I like to get under in here. You'll see a lot of stuff come off right now, but even more will come off later. And since I'm using, you know, a lighter setting, it's totally fine to spray anywhere basically and everywhere, up here, down there, all around, anywhere. And because I got the plug in, I don't got to worry about that. And a lot of mud, since it's nice and dry, is going to come off here, which is great. But when we apply that Mud Guru stuff, you'll see even more ends up coming off, which is awesome. Now, if you don't have one of those airbox blockers like I installed earlier, you'll want to kind of avoid getting water in here, because water will get into your airbox, or at least on your air filter, and you definitely don't want to do that. All right, that's it. Just a quick little spray down. Now I'm going to apply the Mud Guru. Realistically, you only need to get it on places that have a lot of mud. So I'm going to get it kind of sprayed on under here. Doesn't really need to go anywhere except for places with a lot of mud on it. But for good measure, I'll throw it on some other locations, why not? So under here, this is where I really want to get some of this stuff. I actually need to load up on this stuff. I'm running out, but no big deal for today. All right, so we're gonna let this stuff sit for, 2 to 3 minutes or so. It really helps to grab on to all the mud and it'll wash right off. So now let's go ahead and wait. Definitely just make sure your oil filter top is nice and tight so that you don't get anything into the engine that you wouldn't want in there. And since we're waiting, I'm just gonna get a little bit of this Mud Guru on the chamois, spray it down. Probably don't want to get it on my dry cloth. And then we're gonna put this thing on, just kind of wipe off the bike. All right, now that we got some Mud Guru on here, even though you don't necessarily need it for this part, I just like to give it a little rub down, get the suds going, hit any parts that aren't gonna wash off as easily. These upper and upper fork guards are essential. I'm waiting for the company Cross-Linked Components. They're in a holding pattern for when they're going to receive their lower fork guards, but basically they're super beefy lower fork guards. These aren't going to do jack shit if you ever crash your bike. So once they're done manufacturing those, I'm definitely going to put some on my lower forks just to be safe. They're like $100. I think these were like 50 or 60, and it comes in the pack of 4. Super solid investment to make sure that your $8,000 or $5,000 forks don't get messed up. They're pretty expensive on these KTMs. Now we're getting some nice suds. Also, I think it goes without saying, but you definitely want to make sure that your gas cap is fully clicked in. You push down to pull this off, and then start it from the left, turn it to the right until you hear this little thing click up, and then you know that you're safe and you're not going to get water inside your fuel tank. I like to get some of the suds off. And then we'll wipe this down again with some water. And then we'll be ready to spray the bike down. Something you also got to watch out for, especially when you're doing this on a real sunny day, is your bike will dry pretty quickly, and you do not want the bike to dry with soap on it, because you're going to get all these ugly sort of looking streak marks, which you can see are on mine. They'll wash off, but it's something that you definitely want to make sure you take care of. All right, now that we've let the mud guru do its thing, we're gonna look at all that come right off. That's nice. And of course, I'll probably go back and, you know, spray it a little bit more and wipe it just to get everything off. But like I said, we're using low pressure here, so we're fine to spray around the electronics and whatnot. Want to make sure we get the undercarriage. So another thing I wanted to mention is your chain. So we're getting the chain wet, and if you do not dry your chain off, you are going to get some rust starting to accumulate, and we definitely don't want rust on our chain. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to use an air compressor, and we're actually going to dry this off. So what we're going to do is we're going to use proper chain cleaner. We're going to then dry everything off with an air compressor, and then we are going to use some chain wax so that our chain will live a nice, long, healthy life. And then let's get under there. Look at all that mud coming off. I love this Mud Guru stuff. It's great. It gets all the mud off the bike. Something I also like to mention is, you know, you definitely want to avoid any high pressure here, because you don't want any water getting in your bearings. So that's why I kind of, and I'm talking about right in here. On the outside's fine. You know, one of the main reasons you do grease your bolts and your bearings is because it's water repellent, and it makes sure that water doesn't get inside of there. So that's something that you definitely want to be cognizant of when you're doing this. To make sure we don't get any water marks or anything on the plastics, we're going to use this. We're going to dry everything off. The reason I like to use these instead of a regular rag is the rag leaves a lot of like white little threads and stuff like that on the bike. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go around, dry off the bike with this, and then we'll take the next step. All right, so we've wiped the bike down. As you can see, you're still going to get some like water here. You might not be able to fully get it dry. In a couple of steps here, I'm actually going to show you what we can do to mitigate these water marks on here. But first things first, what we're going to do now that we've kind of dried things off is we are going to actually start up the bike. Now, obviously, we're going to want to take this out if we start our bike. And we're also going to want to make sure that the airbox is clear. So let's take this out. Now, as you can see, you know, we got a little bit of water in here, not a lot, but obviously you would not want any of that to get in the airbox. So now we're going to just go ahead, pop this puppy out. We're going to install our air filter, and then we're going to start up the bike. The main reason we're starting up the bike is all the elements of the bike that heat up will actually turn any excess water into steam. So you're not going to get any water marks on your exhaust or your header pipe or anything like that. So that's why we want to start the bike up right after we're done washing it. All right, our air filter is now installed. We'll pop this panel back on. Now it's on, and we'll start this bike up. And we're gonna let it run for about 3 minutes or so, and you'll actually start to see steam coming off the exhaust and parts of the engine. We have now run the bike for about 3 minutes. As you can see, I'm kind of missed a little bit right here, but no problem. No water spots or anything on there, nothing right there. So now we're good to give it a little. Man, I love the sound of this bike ever since I unrestricted this end cap, got the new ECU, took out the reeds. It just sounds worlds better now that I've done that. All right, so next thing we're going to do is get rid of any of these sort of like watermark streaks on here. So let's go grab our can. All right, and I know this is absolutely blasphemous, but we're doing it anyways. I'm sorry, KTM. I found that this Pro Honda spray cleaner and polish works really well for keeping your plastics nice and clean. So essentially it works as kind of like a way to keep dirt off of them. It's kind of a little oily. It kind of smells like coconut. I'm not sure if there's coconut oil in it. I kind of doubt it. But you know, it's basically detailer. It cleans road grime, grease, and bugs without any water. So you can use this to clean, but I like to spray it on the bike after and wipe it down. And that ensures that the bike stays clean after. And it also gives it a nice little shine and gets rid of any of those watermarks on the bike. So I'm gonna spray some of this on now. So give it a little shake, and like I said, we're just kind of spraying this on the plastic. So what's really nice is, and you know this if you have one of these orange KTM seats, you get kind of marks on it from your pants, maybe your boots, not too sure, but this stuff works on there as well and gets rid of any of those marks. So we're just going to kind of spray on just the plastic parts of this bike. I try to avoid the headlight. It's not a big deal if you get any on there, but it is something that I noticed puts a little weird film on there. And so we're just gonna get this on all the parts and then wipe it down. And yes, for this particular instance, because I am out of my microfiber cloths, I am using a white rag, even though I said not to do that before. Luckily with this stuff, you're not really getting the little white marks. Maybe you are, but it's all good, you know. This stuff will keep your bike shining and looking nice. Maybe I'll go over it one more time after with the microfiber, even though it's a little wet. All right, and there you have it. Now the bike's looking nice and shiny and brand new, minus all the times I've fallen and scuffed up the bike, but no big deal. That's what these dirt bikes are made for. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our lift up the bike, and we're gonna do some chain cleaning and chain maintenance and make sure everything's all good. So now we've got our lift ready to go here. I can't recommend this thing enough. This is the Pittsburgh 1,500 pound capacity ATV motorcycle lift. Got it from Harbor Freight for about 150 bucks. Super great investment, really great for cleaning your chain, taking your tires off, anything that you need to do. Comes with these little pieces that you screw in, and basically what that does is it pushes down the screw and makes sure that your wheels don't roll while you are lifting up the bike. So let's go ahead and get this bike lifted up. And basically the main reason why I do this when I'm cleaning my chain is so that I can easily, you know, spin the wheel and get the chain nice and clean. So let's go ahead and take care of that now. All right, so these are the products that I use to clean my chain. You just got some Maxima Cleanup Chain Cleaner. First I'm gonna spray the chain down a little bit with some water. Then we're gonna apply this stuff, and then you definitely need to get yourself one of these for cleaning your chain. It works really well. It's like $5 or $8 at most. And then we're going to use the air compressor, and we're going to dry off the chain. Then we are going to apply some chain wax, and this is really important for chain maintenance. And you definitely don't want to go riding right after. You want to wait at least half an hour to an hour for your chain wax to sort of seat on the chain and kind of dry and create that nice film of wax on your chain for smooth operation. All right, so let's go ahead and just spray this chain down with some light water, trying to avoid the bearings if possible, just because we don't want to get a ton of water in there. And that's pretty solid. I think we've got plenty there. And we're gonna go ahead and grab our chain cleaner, and we are just going to spray like so along here until it makes its way back. Not gonna lie, this stuff actually smells kind of good if you smelled gasoline as a child and you like the smell. Not saying it smells like gas, that just means you're into toxic smelling things and you probably sniffed the markers when you were a kid. All right, so there's a lot of ways to do this. I kind of just give it some scrubs and then continue on making sure that we're scrubbing every inch of this chain. And after I do the top, I actually like to spray it off a little bit, and I like to go from the underside as well and just spin this along as we do that, just making sure we're cleaning our chain as much as possible. I mean, look at all that grime and whatnot on the swing arm from cleaning off our chain. So now we're going to spray this down, and then we are going to get our air compressor, and then we're going to air dry our chain to make sure we don't get any rust. I'm not going to show that part on camera because realistically speaking, it's super loud. You guys get the point. Get your air compressor, blow this thing till it's dry while spinning it, and then you're ready to apply your chain wax. So we'll come back once I've done that portion. All right, another thing I didn't mention, you definitely want to try to clean off this part right here, just on the outside. If you can, try to get some of that grime off of there as well. And then you'll want to lift up the chain and clean this plastic area right here that your chain slides on. There's going to be a lot of grime and whatnot on there. And it's helpful to wipe that off to keep this chain clean. So our chain is now nice and dry. It's looking nice and clean as well. We are now going to apply the chain wax, and then that'll be everything. All right, same exact concept as we did for the chain cleaner with our chain wax. We are going to go ahead and install this little piece right here. It's always helpful to make sure that we're aiming exactly where we want to be aiming. Put this on there, and we're just going to lightly spray, and we're going to spin this until it's made one full rotation. You do not want to over wax your chain. It's not going to be detrimental, but it's not the best thing to over wax this because it's just going to gunk more stuff up. So once we've made one full rotation, I can start to see that our wax has now been applied fully. And so there you go, now we're done. All right, that does it. The bike is nice and clean. We've done our chain maintenance, and the bike is ready to go and rip after we wait 30 minutes to an hour for that chain wax to settle. I'm not riding today, so I'm not too worried about it. But if you guys found this video helpful in any way, consider dropping a like on the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell so you can get notified every time I drop a video on trail tune-up, and drop a comment on the video to let me know any products you used on your dirt bike that are super useful. That's it for Trail Tune-Up. My name's Jason. We'll see you out on the trail.